It's important to prevent the United States from committing war crimes, and by watching these games and going to the United States and booking hotels for huge sums of money. It's not important to watch the World Cup. You're not gonna die. But if you watch the World Cup, you're gonna contribute to killing people. No matter what, this World Cup has to be boycotted. It should have been in the first place moved away from the United States, but because FIFA is in the bucket of the United States, the US administration, so the World Cup is there. There are hundreds of thousands of tickets that have been cancelled. In my entire life, I really wished I could watch a World Cup game from the stadium, but I never could, which was for me a really heartbreak. But now I've lost interest in football quite a lot. The World Cup must be moved away from the United States for the war crimes it's committing against Iran. It is funding in Lebanon, it's funding in Gaza, and for the colonial project they are trying to implement in the Gaza Strip. So I really hope people will boycott the World Cup. People may really know that I was born in 2002. I'm 23 years old. So before October the 7th, 2023, I was already 20 years old exactly. I was barely 20 years old. And before, since I was born in Deir-Al-Balah refugee camp, which is from its name, you can guess it's a refugee camp. So the people who live there, not most of them, but a very huge part of the population in there is already refugees who have been whose grandparents have been displaced from their homeland, who themselves have been displaced from their homeland, from their hometowns, occupied hometowns in great historic Palestine. And it's a very tiny town that lies on the coastal line on the Mediterranean Sea. It has a population of nearly 50 to 70,000 people, which you may find big, but the fact is that Deir-Al-Balah is only 15 square kilometers. So it's a very tiny town, but it has quite a big population. It's a very densely populated area. Well, not very densely, but because of its tightness and smallness, it's very densely populated. You can grasp an idea of what things have been like, because in 2006, Israel has put a siege, has imposed a full spectrum, full range siege on Gaza, a crippling one, controlling water, controlling food, controlling sources, controlling the exit from Gaza. It's like a gate to a cage. So they've caged us. And then in 2009, it left the first war in Gaza, which lasted almost 50 days. And it was a very bloody, soaked war, which Israel has launched unprovoked on the Strip. In that war, only more than 1,000 people have been killed. And then 4 years later, in 2012, Israel also launched another unprovoked war in Gaza. Hundreds were killed. It lasted only a week. And then in 2014, Israel launched another lengthy war for more than 51 days during Ramadan, killing around 1,000 people and injuring thousands of others. And in 2021, Israel also launched another war, another unprovoked war in Gaza, which lasted 11 days. Also, hundreds have been killed, were killed in that war. And in total, over 2,500 were killed in these 4 unprovoked wars. This is apart from the escalations that Israel has also started and waged against the Gaza Strip. And then the genocide happened. So you can imagine from this series of events that has happened to me and with me in Gaza, that this is a life that has been defined by wars, by trauma, by suffering, by agony, by grief, by difficulties, by humanization, by marginalization. This is like something that I've been through. And it's something that I really wanted to, navigate or alleviate as much as I could, but I couldn't because it's a siege. It's what I've been through. So it's a very difficult life. Like most of the population have no work. students are indebted to their universities. They can't afford their tuition fees. Like as a family, my father could barely provide us food and water. The money he barely could give us education. So it's been a really, really horrific life. And there are a lot of stories about before October the 7th. And if we want to talk about it, we're not talking about 30 minutes that we need. We need hundreds and thousands of hours to talk about only the period before October the 7th, let alone the October the 7th and afterwards.
So you are one of how many siblings, and like what sort of occupation was your father doing? And like when you were growing up back when itself, when you were talking about all of these wars, and these all involved like airstrikes, right? So were you under the threat? What was it like growing under the threat of like airstrikes? As someone, especially who plays soccer, who wants to be out on the streets, I would imagine playing ball. What was that like as a kid for you?
Well, as I said, many, many times I tried to, when I was a kid, I remember I was hiding from the strikes under my bed. I was crying most of the times. I was looking at the strikes around me and things like I said, I was going to be killed, like I said, until this moment. And for many, many years to come, until maybe the end of my life, my last breath, I don't think I'll be recovering from the trauma. The trauma is just ceaseless. So for me, there was no way to cope with the strikes. There's never been a way to cope with the strikes and to cope with the, especially genocide, with wars and everything like that. So it's really intolerable and something that I always wish since I was a kid. Of course, I didn't have at the time much knowledge about how the West functions and, what we've seen and the hypocrisy that we've seen in double standards. I really wished I could, many times I really wished I was born in a different country. Like my father, he could afford me a lot of things that I really wished. And even though he was a very hardworking man, but we also had a big family. Like I have four brothers and a couple of sisters. So we're quite a big family. So he barely could afford what was essential to the family.
Like there was a point where you were seriously considering, and I think that you are probably now more closer to pursuing that, living in Dublin, but you were trying to be a soccer commentator or a journalist. And then after October 7, I was especially inspired hearing you describing what you did, not as journalism, but as genocide documentation. At what point did the task occur to you that this is what you were doing? And like, can you describe the moment of transition when you stepped up to that task? What was that like signing up, putting on the press outfit, knowing what awaits, if you do that as a kid of barely 19 years old, as you said?
I was 20, just to be clear, and then I was 21, and then I was 22. No, actually, I wasn't 22 in Gaza. I turned 22 just 5 months ago. For me, I mean, it was something indescribable, something that I really didn't want to take on at all. I think I really lost a lot holding the responsibility for such a massive mission. And I really tried my very best to be the voice of my people and amplify their voices and to try to listen to them all the time and just communicate that with Western audiences. And I really hope that I haven't failed anyone from my people and have been representing them in the best way possible. It's been really, really difficult. I've risked my life a lot of times. I was threatened many times to be targeted, to be murdered. Somehow I survived, and now I'm in Ireland, and I'm really always grateful to the people of Ireland, the decent and true people in Ireland and the country. It's every time when I was reporting, there was an imminent threat of being killed, of losing a lot. So it was really, really, really hard, like, and I really wanted to try a lot to stop. Like I tried many times to stop, and to turn it down a bit, but I couldn't because I felt very guilty and I really wanted to continue that noble mission which I saw. And maybe this is something I haven't talked about before, that many times my father would tell me like stop a little bit because you're endangering us and it's becoming really difficult. But then I kept going on because I told him, I kept explaining to him that, well, I can't leave that. It's my duty, and it's something that I really want to continue doing.
How did you
Like,
prepare, you feel like? I mean, I know it's a ridiculous question on one level because you were born in it, but what sort of, because like I have to say, as somebody who has watched this through you, I have to say like the whole time, I think like you are probably one of my main like eyes into what was going on in Gaza the whole time from the beginning. And I think like first, like there was briefly Rafat and Dr. Alarir, who, was killed in a targeted assassination on the 7th of December, I think. For a while, like, through figures like you, we got to see the reality. But one of the biggest things that I think anybody who was watching the resistance admired was the level of not only resilience that you were showing, but also discipline and the level of like just meticulous. Like it seemed it was a very well planned, tightly operated, well-oiled machine in a sort of way where you were able to, be back up every time there was they reduced you, for the lack of a better expression, reduced you to rubble. You were still back up and immediately reporting on the spot, providing the information and the videos just like real time, and kept everybody updated. So can you give a little bit of an idea of what the planning behind that was?
I mean, to be honest, like when I started doing all of that, it didn't start immediately. I was doing that independently, and I've never put in a contract, put paper to a contract with any media organization. I've been freelancing for them. I've been independent, and that's what I preferred. I think being independent was the key for me to speak my mind and to speak truth to power and to do what I really believed in, because it was really, really, really hazardous to keep going with the mission alone. But I wasn't even if some people have this idea that I was prepared at some point. Like, to be honest, I've never ever in my life taken a journalism. Like, I took one journalism course online because I was interested in doing like football journalism, and I've learned that through instinct and through, because I was born I was born in a war zone, and at that time I didn't really have any preparations, and I've been reading news quite a lot of times, but barely I took any course. Like, I've never had that before, probably except one course with Vietnam numbers, that we talked about how writings in media are drafted and crafted. All that was self-learning and something that I really wanted to do, but I haven't taken an actual journalism course in my life. Because if you look at Gaza, the people of Gaza, as well, Deir says one time, one of the most famous journalists in Gaza, he once told me that the people of Gaza were born journalists because
Mm.
of the environment thrown at. Nothing really impeded me from doing what I was doing, despite, as I said, the threats and other things. But yes, I wish it could be different circumstances. I really wish I were a football reporter standing on a pitch rather than standing in a hospital. I really, really wish things were different, but this is what happened. And unfortunately, I'm still an accident to war correspondent. That's how I would describe myself, and a lot of people, and that's how a lot of people know me by. I'm, of course, an accident to war correspondent. It's the circumstances that enforced upon me that made me like this, but hopefully one day I will return to the dream that I wanted to achieve.
What was leaving Gaza like for you? What made you decide that you wanted to leave? What was that process like? you were not only reporting for drop site, writing articles, but you were also like standing there. I remember you gave a press conference after one of your colleagues got killed. I remember that was like one of the poignant press conferences that I saw where you were not only communicating what happened, but also dealing with the grief of that moment on the spot. So can you speak to what it was like to leave, to decide to leave that behind? What made you choose that, make that decision? What were your parents and like, what was your family saying about that? How are they, and you can also talk to how they're doing in respect to you now that you have moved away and you live in Ireland. What's your communication and relationship with Gaza like?
The decision, as I said, to leave Gaza, and I've really described that a lot of times before. Uh, and the decision was, I received threats. I think I was a threat to my family. That's how they felt. So they asked me to leave because they didn't want to get bombed. They didn't want me to harm anybody, not just only them, but people around me. Not only them, but also people around me. This is the main reason, but another reason was because I was malnourished. It was really, I was really traumatized and weakened by the starvation levels that were stoking the Gaza Strip. I really got tired a lot, got sick a lot. I've contracted many diseases. I had contracted many diseases during the genocide, so I was, like I was the heart of all of that, and I. So these are the two reasons why I really wanted to leave Gaza. And then I'm still communicating with my family quite often, and with the people whom I love and cherish. I mean, I love everyone in Gaza, of course. I love my people, of course, but it's like this is what I did. So I'm trying to contact with the people whom I know, and to try to get the news out, try to help people with whatever I could do or I can do, and that's been the journey.
The one thing that always like strikes me at right now, which is very atrocious, is the speaking of Gaza in the past tense. That everybody who's pontificating about Gaza in the mainstream media tend to talk about it as if it has been it's over, that it's after Gaza. Can you speak to the state of Gaza at the moment? We only know about it through the mainstream media's presentations, through this Gaza Board of Peace or whatever that Trump has designed for himself and his friends. So, can you speak to what Gaza is, the shape of Gaza at the moment? And how Palestinians in Gaza are engaging with this disastrous and horrific plan that the West seems to have for them.
It's a farcical plan. It's a plan that serves colonial imperial interests. It has nothing to do with helping the people of Gaza. This is what they've been seeking out since the onset of the genocide. And I'm really angry at that because people think it's over, but it's not, it's still not over. Since October 2025, since the ceasefire, Israel has murdered over 700 people and injured around 2,000 people. The killings are still ongoing, and the killings are really difficult to absorb. Like every soul in Gaza is precious, every soul in Gaza is priceless. And I really want, people to understand Gaza needs many years to recover, and the rehabilitation process is really going to take years, even if not decades. And to rebuild Gaza, it's been 5 months. Reconstruction materials have been going into Gaza. Caravans and mobile homes haven't entered Gaza yet. So there's a conspiracy theory against Gaza. It's like a plan to wipe out the entire population. It's the hypocrisy. It's the hypocrisy of Western leaders. It's the hypocrisy of Arab regimes leader. I mean, even if it is Western regimes, but as I said, it's really been very difficult. Even prices now have skyrocketed because of the Iran war. and people are still suffering. They're still in tents. Now they're getting into the summer. It's another time of pain, trauma, and difficulties for them. So they need relief. They need support from the entire population of the world. And that's what people really, really need to understand.
How are you, participating in this process of like basically making the plight of the Palestinians known? And in addition, like especially speaking of that, we are speaking in the week of the basically the Israeli government legalizing, approving, passing a law to execute Palestinian detainees who are they like calling them like prisoners and political prisoners and all of that, but that's not, or like prisoners of war and all of that, but that's not actually the case. And so, can you speak to the reality of that? How this is the way in which the genocide seems to be carrying on now in this way that is both nakedly cruel but also disguised as something that it's not.
I mean, it's horrendous. It's a dark moment for history, for humanity. I can't really think of any words except fascism. I don't know how this has been legalized. This is Nazism. It's abhorrent. It's really, really deplorable, and people have to understand that it's something I really can't really put into words to describe. But it's expected. I mean, Israel has committed a genocide, so for them to pass a death penalty bill, for them it's fine. It's not a problem. So you can, yeah, you can just imagine.
At this moment, like everybody, including the West and including a lot of people in the left in the West, whether they say it or not openly, seem to be counting on Iran to do their work for them. Where every time, because Iran is closing the strait or like taking out the military bases in the region, it seems like that's the hopes of the resistance that anybody seems to have. There doesn't seem to be a lot of hope coming from anybody who's doing organizing or work in the West. So as someone who's now like moved to the West, arguably living in Dublin, what sort of work do you see yourself being able to do that you feel is like there's scope for doing within the West to actually help push back against this in terms of both like just bringing awareness seems to be possible for everyone. I'm talking to you. A lot of people talk to people and like spread awareness. But what can be materially done in the West, you think, to push back against these atrocities?
I think people need to understand one thing, which is you need to keep mobilizing. You need to uh, keep doing whatever possible to stop, your governments from being complicit in the genocide. People have to continue talking about Gaza and raising awareness about it. And I hope people understand that the the longer you're silent, the more you're silent, the more people are being killed. My demand for people is to pressure an actual end to the genocide and a genuine ceasefire in Gaza. And I hope this will happen. I really hope this will happen very soon. There's a lot happening in Gaza at the moment that we're not aware of. International media journalists, the honest ones who should be entering Gaza to reporting the truth, they're being denied. There are still, despite the fact that we've seen dozens and hundreds and thousands of stories in the past, I'm sure there are hundreds, if not thousands, if not millions of stories that haven't been talked about yet. Everyone in Gaza has a tragedy. Everyone in Gaza has a story to tell, and I think these stories should be heard. So let Gaza be something that people wake up by, and they should. And I really hope they keep advocating for against the all forms of injustice and oppression and repression, because all these forms are happening in Gaza at the moment at the most at the extremist pace.
What is your life like at the moment? Just give me an idea of what sort of life you lead. So you go to college, right?
Well, I mean, it's been really difficult, and the
Hmm.
reason it's been difficult is because I'm away from my family.
Mm.
There's nothing like being with your family and, sharing meals with your family, being with them, going out with them, and just to feel their presence is something really, really, really priceless. And nowadays, yeah, I go to college. I'm finishing my bachelor's degree. I still report on what is happening in Gaza, and I'm still trying to advocate. I'm advocating for my people. I'm speaking here and over there to ensure that there's a voice going out. Like this is what I've been basically doing, but it's been really hellish. In 2 weeks, it will be a year since I left Gaza. I left Gaza on April the 16th, 2025. So time really flies. I've been trying to do my best.
I've seen you speak at some really serious places, which is why, like, I'm floored that you accept my humble invitation. I'm speaking to you person to person as a guy, just like in awe of the work that you've done, like the kind of fortitude that you've shown. So, having said all of that, you are going out into the world and speaking about, as you said, your genocide documentation, the facts from that, the extent of the damage that has happened, and you're speaking in front of all of these international organizations. What has your experience been like when somebody hears you out in these places? Do you feel like there is a sense of solidarity and a sense of hope that you're getting, or do you feel like there is a this kind of stuff keeps happening, but it doesn't like really materially help Palestinians in a sort of way? Is there a sort of feeling like that you get?
To be honest, like I believe people have to do a lot more. People have been inactive. People, I think, have been so selfish. Not the vast majority, but some people have been quite a considerable number of people. And I think these people have to, scale up their activism and their advocacy for a very noble justice. And demonstrations are not enough. Just talking about Palestine is not enough as well. This has to be intensified if we want to really achieve something for the people of Gaza and help them. We have to stand together and and stand united in the face of all this oppression. And I hope it will work out.
The way that Palestine gets represented as a cause, it becomes like a sort of almost domestic political issue that kind of gets almost filtered off from the actual international context that it has. So, in keeping up with this, I've even seen like the news network over there in Gaza also like kind of sometimes play up these sort of Western moments in the news where someone who's running for office in the US in New York or something would say something in pro-Palestine, and you would play that up. So how do you feel when you see these people who can even cynically use Palestine as a sort of issue to get elected, but then afterwards, it becomes like a sort of political liability for them, so they would drop it, and it becomes like this sort of political play within this context, which doesn't really connect to Gaza. And you see this happening in a lot of different contexts. I don't just think it's unique to the US. It's true for the UK. It's true for Ireland as well. I don't know how much it's true for Ireland because I feel like Ireland has a better record in this respect. There is like the political party, I think Sinn Féin, that actually has more pro-Palestine views than a lot of parties in the West.
It's a very good question, and you're right. I mean, if you look at Zohran Mamdani, he mainly won the elections because he supported Palestine. He talked about the genocide, and he's very supportive of Palestinians. But then, when the pressure piled up on him, he started. I mean, he's still good, I think, in my opinion, but he started capitulating to this pressure, and it's really wrong. And he's trying somehow to throw under the bus some Palestinians, and this is really wrong. And I hope he won't, and I hope he will continue the same path and just be a strong voice for Palestinians and the oppressed nations, including Lebanon, Sudan, and Congo, Yemen, and Iran, Cuba, and Venezuela as well. But it's, as I said, it's something like when you look even in Britain, the Green Party. They're very supportive of Palestinians. I think the next elections they will win. I believe they will run the UK government. I
Hmm.
believe so. They will run the UK government. So, and I believe people are fed up with Keir Starmer and the Labour Party, and the Conservative Party and the Reform Party is clearly a racist, pro-imperialist party. So I think the Green Party will win, but I hope Zach Polinsky, who's been really great in exposing Britain's role in the genocide and trying to advocate for the Palestinians and talking about them as much as he could. So I really hope that when he wins, that he continues speaking up on that. The tide is changing. We know that. Even in Ireland, the tide isn't changing. I think the Fine Gael will lose the elections to the Sinn Féin party. But we'll see. Yeah, there's a massive change because of Gaza. But this is when they win, they have to understand that this is Gaza. Gaza has done them a favor. They have to pay that favor back.
I'll leave you with this. The Soccer World Cup, it's moving forward despite all of the sort of kind of controversy around it. They gave Trump the prize. Uh, Trump has bombed the soccer stadium in Iran, in Tehran, killed athletes like Palestinian soccer players. And yet the World Cup is moving forward. So, what are your thoughts on, as someone especially who's a fan of the sport? It doesn't seem like the kind of year where the World Cup should be taking place, and as a personal thought.
I really hope people will boycott it, and it's really important people will know it's not important to cheer on World Cup teams participants this year. It's important to prevent the United States from committing war crimes, and by watching these games and going to the United States and booking hotels for huge sums of money. It's more important to invest in that money for the oppressed nations who are being impacted by the evil of the United States. So I really hope people understand this. It's not important to watch the World Cup. You're not going to die. But if you watch the World Cup, you're going to contribute to killing people. And that's what you need to put in your mind, that no matter what, this World Cup has to be boycotted. It should have been in the first place moved away from the United States, but because FIFA is in the bucket of the United States, the US administration, so the World Cup is there. There are hundreds of thousands of tickets that have been cancelled to the United States and to the World Cup. So I hope people will follow it. And in my entire life, I really wished I could watch a World Cup game from the stadium, but I never could, which was for me really heartbreak. But now I've lost interest in football quite a lot. I'm still watching football, but it is, as I said, the United States shouldn't and mustn't, and the World Cup must be moved away from the United States for the war crimes it's committing against Lebanon, against Iran. It is funding in Lebanon, it's funding in Gaza, the colonial project they are trying to implement in the Gaza Strip. So I really hope people will boycott the World Cup.